Assalamu alaikum and welcome to a US election special of the Muslim Viewpoint. In this video we will take a look at the outcome of the US elections and what it means for the Muslim world. Joe Biden is now the 46th president-elect of the United States, barring any legal action taken by Donald Trump to overturn the decision. The whole election process has been shambolic, with accusations of ballot stuffing, false registration of postal voters and legal action taken by Donald Trump. The kind of thing you would expect to see in a failed state. Donald Trump was open in his hatred and disdain for Muslims, especially those trying to enter America to live there.
Do you think Islam is at war with the West?
I think Islam hates us. There's something there that there's a tremendous hatred there. There's a tremendous hatred. We have to get to the bottom of it. There is an unbelievable hatred of us.
Joe Biden could be seen as someone that offers some renewed hope for Muslims across the world in terms of their relationship with the Americans. Biden has tried to position himself as a friend of the Muslims during this election process, using the word inshallah during one of the debates and even releasing a video onto social media where he quotes hadith from Muhammad about enjoining the good and forbidding the munkar.
Hadith from the Prophet Muhammad instructs, whomever among you sees a wrong, let him change it with his hand. If he is not able, then with his tongue. If he is not able, then with his heart.
Joe Biden has been in politics for nearly 5 decades, and in that time we need to examine what he's done about the Muslim world and what his policies towards the Muslim world have been. Muslims sometimes naively think that under a new president things will be different. Malaysia's Deputy Foreign Minister Datuk Karmuddin Jafar said, "We are hoping that there will be changes, and we have also read previous statements which we believe would bring a new light to the Palestine-Israel conflict." Joe Biden's position towards the Zionist entity and the Muslim world is no different to any previous US president.
If we look at the Middle East, I think it's about time we stop, those of us who support, as most of us do, Israel in this body, for apologizing for our support for Israel. There's no apology to be made. None. It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region. The United States would have to go out and invent an Israel. The second part is people should understand by now, this should be crystal clear, that Israel is the single greatest strength America has in the Middle East. I always say to my friends when they say those things to you, I say, imagine our circumstance in the world were there no Israel. How many battleships would there be? How many troops would be stationed? Early on when I was a kid, I'd say, when I was a young senator, I'd say, if I were a Jew, I'd be a Zionist. I am a Zionist. You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist.
So Joe Biden's position on Israel is clear. He considers himself to be a Zionist and he will continue that throughout his presidency. Throughout his time as a senator, Joe Biden has been involved in decision making and pushing US policy in the Muslim world. Going back to 1998, when UN weapons inspector Scott Ritter resigned from his position because he felt he wasn't getting the support he needed to remove Saddam Hussein's weapons of mass destruction and chemical weapons. He appeared in front of Joe Biden at the Senate hearing committee, and this is what Biden had to say to him.
I think you and I believe, and many of us believe here, as long as Saddam's at the helm, there is no reasonable prospect you or any other inspector is ever going to be able to guarantee that we have rooted out, root and branch, the entirety of Saddam's program relative to weapons of mass destruction. And you and I both know, and all of us here really know, and it's the thing we have to face, that the only way we're going to get rid of Saddam Hussein is we're going to end up having to start it alone, and it's going to require guys like you in uniform to be back on foot in the desert taking taking Saddam down. You know it, and I know it.
This is Joe Biden, 5 years before the second Iraq war started, years before the narrative of war on terror started, and he was pushing the notion that no matter how many weapons inspectors there may be on the ground, that the ultimate position the American administration should take was to remove Saddam Hussein from power. Furthermore, Joe Biden was instrumental in not only supporting the war on Iraq when it started, but also bringing people together within the Senate to vote for the war on Iraq.
In my judgment, President Bush is right to be concerned about Saddam Hussein's relentless pursuit of weapons of mass destruction and the possibility that he may use them or share them with terrorists.
Joe Biden did so much more than vote for the war. He was the chair of the powerful Senate Committee on Foreign Relations, and he really used his control over that committee to make sure that a majority of the U.S. Senate voted to authorize the war. And that's a very serious thing. It's questionable whether the authorization to start the war could have even passed Congress without all that Biden did to get it approved. So he really did play a major role in bringing us into the Iraq War, a terrible, terrible war. And this was much more responsibility. He bears much more responsibility than many other senators who simply voted for it. Of course, the statement about chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons were false. And many experts already concluded this at the time of the Senate hearings, but Biden didn't allow these experts to testify. That's really significant. As chair of the Foreign Relations Committee, Biden was able to control the Senate debate on the war, and therefore much of the information that most senators received and that major media outlets reported was really distorted.
Biden was not only a supporter of the war on Iraq, but was also a proponent of the idea of splitting Iraq into three, which is a long-held U.S. foreign policy initiative.
The last point I'll make. Look, folks, it's real simple. The simple proposition here is you're not going to be able to govern this country from the center, period. There's already 4.5 million people that have fled their regions, and the only way you're going to do it is give people local control over their local regions, their local security within a loosely federated republic, or we're never going to get out of there without leaving chaos behind.
Even Bernie Sanders, a fellow Democrat, attacked Biden's record on Iraq during the presidential debates.
The war in Iraq turned out to be the worst foreign policy blunder in the modern history of this country. As Joe well knows, we lost 4,500 brave troops. Hundreds of thousands of Iraqis died. We have spent trillions of dollars on that endless war, money which should go into healthcare and education and infrastructure in this country. Joe and I listened to what Dick Cheney and George Bush and Rumsfeld had to say. I thought they were lying. I didn't believe them for a moment. I took to the floor. I did everything I could to prevent that war. Joe saw it differently.
However, Biden, being the seasoned politician that he is, continuously lied during the presidential debates, stating that he had no intention of going to war and that the war was enacted by the hawks within the Republican Party such as George W. Bush and Dick Cheney.
It was a mistake to trust that they weren't going to go to war. They said they were not going to go to war. They said they were just going to get inspectors in.
Joe Biden is the perfect example of the chameleon-type character you need to be in democratic politics. Iraq is not the only nation in the Muslim world where Biden seems to continuously change his position depending upon the time and place. When it comes to Afghanistan, Biden has switched between either supporting a troop surge or calling for a minimal amount of troops. However, he is totally against the idea of withdrawing all troops from Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, Biden does not accept any responsibility for the action that the American administration took, which led to the destruction of a nation. In a February 2020 presidential debate, Biden said about Afghanistan, "There is no possibility to unite that country, no possibility at all of making it a whole country." Biden's position towards neighboring Pakistan hasn't been any more favorable. In 2007, Biden called Pakistan the most dangerous country in the world. During his campaign for the 2008 vice presidency, Biden said that any attack on American soil would be carried out by Al-Qaeda by planning it either in the mountains of Afghanistan or the mountains of Pakistan. Biden was a key member of the Obama administration, being vice president for many years. During this time, the number of drone attacks that occurred on Pakistan increased by 631%. Also, during the 8 years of the Obama administration, the American regime bombed countries such as Libya, Syria, Yemen, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Iraq. In the final year of the Obama administration in 2016, the US government dropped 26,171 bombs alone on Muslim countries. As compared to Trump, Joe Biden is more of a seasoned politician. Therefore, his approach in the Muslim world may seem on the surface as more balanced and more nuanced. However, he will always keep American interests at the forefront of his policies. During a TV interview just before the election, when Biden was quizzed about his foreign policy approach, Biden made it clear what his approach was based upon, which was American interest.
Look, are you telling me that we should go into China go to war with China because what they're doing to the Uyghurs, 1 million Uyghurs out in the West in concentration camps? Is that what you're saying to me?
It was your quote, sir. I was asking you.
No,
what you
I know.
meant.
I gave the answer. Do I bear responsibility? Zero responsibility. The responsibility I have is to protect America's national self-interest and not put our women and men in harm's way to try to solve every single problem in the world by use of force.
It is very clear that a Biden presidency will be a different side of the same coin. The US election should really show us the problems that are inherent within the democratic process. And no matter if the faces keep changing, whether that be in America or the Muslim world, the problems that capitalism and democracy creates will always remain. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends and family.